King Productions presents the BearDown Corner with your host, Sergeant Cornholio. Hey everybody, Sergeant Cornholio here, and this is the BearDown Corner. Let's get you caught up on this week's NFL action. All right, Detroit Lions defensive lineman Levi Onwuzurike. I hope I pronounced that right. Undergoing ACL surgery, the 4-year pro, is that right? He was a 2021 second-round pick, so yeah, going into his 4th year. He missed all of 2022 with an injury, but now is going to miss all of 2025. This isn't maybe the biggest name that you might know as a Detroit Lions fan, but this kid played 60% of the defensive snaps last year on the interior off defensive tackle position. 1.5 sacks. He had career highs in that in quarterback hurries. He helped anchor what was a very decimated defense near the end of the year. So that's a bit of a kick in the nuts to Dan Campbell and his defense. Good for if you're a Bears fan and you're in the same division, so won't be coming after Caleb Williams anytime soon. Good luck there, mister, and hope a speedy recovery to you, Levy. All right, Dmitry Nezhinsky. Okay, this is a New Jersey pawn shop owner. The only reason we're bringing his name up right now is because this man pled guilty to knowingly accepting burglarized goods. Recently, in one of the homes that was burglarized for superstar quarterback Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals, his shit ended up all the way in New Jersey and was being sold at this pawn shop as one of multiple in a big giant scheme of shit. Like it was quite an interesting read where I found some of this info, and this man could be facing a possible maximum 5 years in federal prison for this shit. Not to mention the $2.5 million restitution and just this one charge that he is admitted to alone. Not to mention the other shit he's been charged with, but he's pled no guilty to that. So yeah, Dmitry Nezhinsky, a pawn shop owner in New Jersey, caught up in the dog shit of the Joe Burrow burglaries. That's too bad. Moving along, Micah Parsons, Cowboys fans, you should be excited. He's expected for camp. Coming out of the Parsons camp. He's not going to hold out like the rest of these defensive ends have been this offseason. He's going to show up to camp, fulfill his commitment. Hopefully they get a deal done this season. He's heading into the final year of his current rookie deal. Yeah, that is good news if you're a Cowboys fan. Because, man, you got a bunch of first and second round talent who you're hoping taking a flyer on are going to pan out this year, Jerry Jones. And you know what? It might. These kids weren't drafted in the first and second round for no reason. They obviously have talent. And sometimes a new scenery is good for the spirit. So, Micah Parsons and the rest of that defense trying to get things back on track and getting back to a top 10 defense. Seahawks have released tight end Noah Fant. The former veteran tight end came over in the Russell Wilson trade that sent really a good package worth of picks and players towards Seattle that, they didn't win any Super Bowls, but they definitely didn't, falter too hard, really. They were able to turn those around into some productive picks for themselves on both offense and defense. I believe one of them was the pick for, what's his name? Jackson Smith-Najee from your wide receiver there. Rookie, looking like your number one guy now. So, yeah, he's no longer with the team, though, this tight end, Noah Fant, who had some actually pretty decent games last year. He was a reliable, solid dude. I think he'll end up in a good backup, blocking mainly position somewhere on a solid running team, but when called upon, this guy has the athleticism to get it done. And he's not even 30 yet. So he'll get picked up. He'll get picked up. Reason being, though, is the Seahawks already have enough depth. They drafted a tight end in the second round this year, and they cleared up $9.5 million in cap without even incurring any penalties because they don't owe him no more guaranteed money. They gave it all to him up front in the 2-year extension he signed the other year. So, yeah, change of the helm at tight end for the Seahawks. Rashee Rice of the Kansas City Chiefs, is going to be allowed to participate in preseason and all of minicamp. Regular season is yet to be seen, but this guy still has to serve 30 days in jail as part of his recent coming down on, really, by the judge. The judge sentenced Rashee Rice to 30 days in jail to be served at, luckily for him, his convenience. So, whether it's after the football season, maybe during. If he has to go and be on a suspension anyway, you know what? Go hit the gym for 30 days and whatever else you're going to do in there, man. Like, that's from a stemming issue from a couple seasons ago when him and a buddy were having a racing contest on the highways and were clocked at over like 170 miles per hour. They ended up causing quite a few vehicle wreck. Almost lost some lives, like reckless endangerment. So, yeah, you're going to go serve them 30 days. You're going to become the outstanding human being that we all know you can be. You're already showing the remorse for it, so just do your time for the crime and then move along and help out your Chiefs receivers. They have fucking Xavier Worthy. I know they brought back Juju, but he's not the player he once was. This receiving core, Patrick Mahomes has not had a true receiver since Tyreek left. That's neither here nor there. Because honestly, Rashee Rice, he'll be the answer, whatever happens once he comes back. Former first-round pick. Now, another former first-round pick, though, of the Chiefs that they just locked up the other day, defensive end George Karlaftis, to a 4-year, $93 million extension on top of his already rookie contract. The former 30th overall pick in the 2022 draft is now locked in till the 2030 season. That is huge for a guy with 49 games and about what I think it's like 23 and a half or 25 sacks, something like that. He has almost a sack every other game. You know what? I'd take that any day of the week. That's a guaranteed stop on a third down. The guy's converting, or he's just disrupting the overall presence of that offense. They drafted this kid late in the first, developed his ass, and now he's getting rewarded for it. So congratulations, George. Honestly, I'm happy to see this because I like seeing guys get rewarded for their hard work. He comes to work every day, he does what's asked of him, and you get rewarded for it. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of elbow grease into your job, whatever it might be. So, defensive end, George Karlaftis, in KC till 2030. And to finish things up on this week's episode, we're going to talk about the issues with Shamar Stewart's contract. Man, oh man, the Bengals are digging themselves a goddamn hole that I don't know they're going to be able to recoup this guy at this point. Like, Duke Tobin, the director of player personnel, came out and basically said he needs to be here. I agree with that statement, but not this time. And let me tell you why. So, Shamar, the Bengals want to include language in the contract, okay? And the only reason it's weird is because they're trying to do it with him to make him the first one. Because once he signs that contract, it sends it down the road for everybody else. Now, from the Bengals' point of view, I can agree to an extent. It has to be worded in such a way that it's like, okay, you know what? You get in trouble with the law or something like that. slap on the PP or whatever it needs to be. You need to give out the punishment accordingly. That's why there's this whole process. But what the Bengals want is any kind of infraction to an extent. I'm sure, you can get away with some basic shit, but basically major, more to major infractions, voids his entire contract. How does that do for a kid coming out of college? Now, yes, the NILs have changed things a lot where they now allowed to pay these players for their personnel rights and all that so they can sell all this fucking merch now and have games like college football, 24, 25, 26 and moving forward for EA Sports. But these kids... There's different aspects to it, right? They make enough of this money that now they don't need to sign this quick guaranteed first round contract. Because in the NFL clause, NFLPA and NFL itself, in their collective bargaining negotiations, they had implemented that if a player is not signed his first round tender contract and sits out the entirety of that season, they can re-enter the draft the next year, exemplifying the Bengals from picking him again. Any other team can pick him, but the Bengals. So you're going to lose out on your first round pick because you're trying to set a precedent on something I do agree with to its own extent. I do think that there needs to be a level of responsibility held and accountable for these players. Because if not, they're going to run amok. I've literally done almost a month worth of where I had in and out a guy. And you know what? I'll include Rashee RIces sentencing shit as part of this because I didn't really talk about him in the recent month. So I've had a guy pretty much every week on this show that has gotten in trouble with the law. We're in the middle of the off season. What the hell are you guys doing? I get going out and having fun, but Jesus, Murphy, pull your pants up and start acting like a little bit of an adult. I like to have my fun too, but not like that. If that's your lifestyle, go ruin your life. But don't sit here bitch and moan when you have owners and NFL teams now wanting to put these clauses in the contract. I don't blame them because look at what you're giving them. Precedent to give it. So quit setting the standard for all your other fellow players, basically, all your other mates, all your other teammates. You could be a teammate of multiple guys throughout your career. This is a brotherhood, the NFL, and you guys are shitting on it. And now, because of it, you got players like Shamar Stewart, who, he was questionable coming out of college to begin with. He's more of a project player, it sounds like, but he has the physicality and the attributes to overshadow that, right? You can learn on the go. You can mold this kid. He's moldable. You're trying to get him to sign a contract that will void any guarantees he might thought he had coming out of college. This might be his only contract. The average NFL lifespan is only 3.5 years. So how can the director of player personnel be completely pissed off with this kid? And he came out and said all this shit on a Sports Illustrated interview. Because this is one of the main questions. And the issues and topics that came up also with the defensive end Trey Hendrickson. They're still in contract negotiations with him, although it sounds like they might be a little bit closer now. But how do you expect this kid to confidently sign this contract? And yeah, you know what? They might have their little run-ins with this and that, but if he's going to be a hoodlum, then eventually he's just going to fuck himself anyway. But there should be the out for contracts if you sustain a certain level of felony. Simple as that. There should. An NFL team should not be binded to your ass because you went and made such a horrific mistake. Now, if the team wants to stand behind you, then man, you owe them your ass. But, like, what have you done to get in their good graces otherwise? It's really a catch-22 to certain aspects. I get where management's coming from. They want their guy there. But I also get where the player's coming from, too. And I think it is bullshit. Modified language to incorporate some of that, I'd be all right with. If he has a previous history. If there's no prior known history, then what the fuck are you doing, Cincinnati? Get your head out of your ass, sign some contracts, and get that defense back to a top 15 at least. Because, my God, you can't have another 31st overall worst defense in the league and a top 10, top 5, actually, offense in what they had last year. A 9-8 record is not going to be subdued by the fact that you just handed out contracts to everyone else under the sun. But anyway, that's the end of the rant, and that brings us to a conclusion of this week's episode of the BearDown Corner. I'm Sergeant Cornholio. You can catch us every Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. General Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern, on, of course, YouTube, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, excuse me, and, of course, your wonderful Spotify. Take care of yourself, be safe, and we'll catch you next week here on the BearDown Corner.